How many groups do you have, Alan?
I have 5. And I also chair a Vistage chair group. I'm the best practice chair from Missouri and Kansas.
Wow.
So it's a total of 6.
Wow, that's impressive. Do you have time for all of this? Oh my goodness, you're very busy, aren't you?
I am, and fortunately I've worked out a rhythm, and it's a lot of time, but it's worth it, and I enjoy it so much that doing more of it is not an issue.
Yeah, that's usually the case when you like what you do, and when you're passionate about it. So it's easy.
Yeah, it's usually fun. Occasionally it's not, but it's never been drudgery, and it's always been meaningful.
I know. I can imagine. Absolutely.
Yagev, welcome.
Welcome.
Hey,
Yagev.
Hi, Anita. How are you guys?
Good to see you.
Morning,
I like your view.
Yagev, Alan Hauge is our guest today, a top chair of the U.S. out of St. Louis, and we'll learn more about him in a moment.
Great. Pleased to meet you, Alan.
Nice to meet you too.
Great.
So in honor of you visiting us, Alan, today, this will be done in English. You know, it was going to be in Hebrew, which would keep me out because it's been so long, but in your honor, we will do this in English.
Well, I've got a translator on my iPhone. I mean, we could take a shot at that, but
oh my gosh, you'll be ahead of me, Alan, because it's been since 1956 when I actively spoke Hebrew. And you may understand, Alan, that in Hebrew, we read from right to left.
I know.
So if we did it in Hebrew, we'd have to go to the end of the meeting and come backwards. So we'll probably stick with English for today.
Boaz, I will have to be excused for maybe 10-15 minutes during the presentation because of the emergency that is going on in Irvine. So there are some fires going on, so I may need to, for 15 minutes, to step out, give some answers, and then come back. I apologize in advance.
Sorry. Alan, the company that Anita was is vice president of in California, Vistage company, is in Irvine, California, where they're having problems with fires and people are evacuating.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I hope everything's okay.
Well, some of my employees, their houses are completely gone. They don't have a place to stay, so they need some answers if they, if I can provide some solutions.
That's terrible.
So, yeah, the CEO and the CFO asking me to join for 15 minutes discussion. So I'm not sure when, so I'll join them just to see what's going on and see what.
My very best to them.
Thank you.
Hello, Jackie and James. Delighted to have you all with us today. Yeah. And we'll be meeting our guest, Alan Hauge.
Hi, Boaz.
Hi, Jackie.
Good afternoon. It's afternoon for you guys, right?
Well, it is for me. It's 12 noon in Dallas, as it is for Alan in St. Louis, Missouri. So our
Hi, Alan.
guest
hello.
is a top chair in the U.S.
Right.
And
Anita, good evening.
Good evening. Good to see you. Finally.
Yes, absolutely. We've been missing each other on the Zooms.
I know. But hopefully, Alan, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the unique challenges that I have in being in Dallas is I have to have 2 clocks on my wall, one for here and one for Israel time. Otherwise, I'm just beyond as to where is everybody? Where is everybody? James, hello, how are you today? We see you. We do not hear
how you doing?
Oh, there he is. Hey, James, nice to see you. A pleasure. A pleasure.
Hi, I'm driving and I have to run some errands because of the change.
That's okay.
I apologize. But I'm here. I'm listening in, and then once I can find myself a nice quiet spot where I can settle in, I'll join fully. Hopefully, okay.
You're doing fine. We're just glad you're here, James. That's what champions do, and so we'll begin here in another minute. We'll give anyone else who's able to join us today a chance to sign on, and so Alan, we are very excited about. Bringing Vistage to Israel and launching it there. It's an amazing country for innovation. You know, they're world leaders in technology. And many American companies have major operations in Israel.
I'm a little surprised it hasn't happened already, but I'm delighted that they've got you spearheading it.
Well, thank you, Alan. It all came because of Anita. When she was about to move back to Israel 3 months ago, she called me because we've known each other several years since we met at her company when I presented there for the Vistage group of her CEO. So she was moving back to Israel. She said, "Is there Vistage in Israel?" And I said, "I don't think so, because I don't think they found the right people." And so within a day or two, she and I are on a Zoom call with Sam Reese, the CEO of Vistage, and it took him about 3 seconds to say yes, and here we are.
Yeah.
And so we are honored,
Yeah,
to get to do
Anita,
this.
who is the chair, Anita, that was serving your company?
You're
Can't
muted.
hear you. Can't hear you.
We can't hear
Anita,
you.
you're muted.
I'm sorry. Tom Riddell
I know Tom. Yeah.
is an amazing guy. So he was with my boss for Vistage for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had Tom in chair training, but
Mm.
I was on the faculty for a long time.
Oh,
So,
I see. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
I've been working with him for so many Vistage meetings.
So why don't we begin? Others may join us along the way, but we want to respect Alan's time. And so it is such a delight. But first of all, I wanted Anita to comment. We've had individual Zoom meetings with all the chair candidates over the last few days. And hasn't it been amazing, Anita, our time that we spent with each individual?
Absolutely. It's an unbelievable group of people, the level of caliber that Boaz was able to recruit. I'm so impressed. I have no words. Each person in this group is so knowledgeable and experienced, and has so much to contribute. I think they will be, each one of them is an asset to Vistage, and I have no doubt that they will make and bring great members and also make a great groups. So we're excited and delighted and very committed.
Absolutely.
that's great.
And so for everybody's knowledge, Alan has been a Vistage chair since 1995. He has 5 groups, plus he's a best practice chair, which means he oversees groups of chairs, Vistage chair groups. And I have known Alan for, Alan, how long? Like 15 years now? We've known each other a long time.
It's longer than that. You talked to my groups down in Key West at a retreat, and that I know that had to be 20 years ago anyway.
Yeah.
Because I just got married, so.
Well, and you're still.
I'm still married. Actually,
Okay,
today's my anniversary.
Oh my gosh, what year is this? This is?
19.
Oh, congratulations. How
Thank you.
wonderful. And so I wanted to bring to you all, one of the top people in the country. So Alan, if you'll tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Are you originally from St. Louis?
No, I grew up in a small town in the state of West Virginia, over about just a couple hours from Washington, D.C. Went to college in Ohio, a little school called Worcester, and then came out to Washington University in St. Louis for an MBA in the late 1970s, and went to work for today, which you call a private equity group, for about 6 years. Then I worked for a family holding company. And then I was vice president and general manager of a company that packaged and processed goods for the lawn and garden industry. And we sold to Kmart's and Walmart's and hardware store chains in the Midwest. And then we sold the company, and I was looking for my next challenge, and Vistage came along at that point. And the thing that got me on board with it was every job I'd ever had been working with or for the CEO of one of the companies that we owned in the various entities that I worked for. And I had seen very smart people make very stupid mistakes because they didn't have peers around them. It wasn't enough for me to say something to someone here. They had to hear it that way. They had to hear it eye to eye. And as soon as I saw that, I said, wow, think of the money and the pain that could have been avoided if the people I'd worked for had something like this. So I was immediately sold on it.
And Alan, by the way, you have a family, you have kids?
I don't have kids. I am married, and I met my wife through Vistage. One of my members fixed me up with her blind date on Valentine's Day in 1999.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah. We made them go with us on the date, but it was great.
Absolutely. So, Alan, there are certain cultural differences in every country in the world where Vistage exists, and certainly in Israel. And so I wonder, have you come across, because one of the questions people have had, the chair candidates, is the fact that in Israel, people get advice from other people they serve in the military with, they get it in the corner, at the coffee shop and so forth. Why should they pay for the advice that they would get from Vistage? Have you ever had situations where somebody said, why should I pay for this advice? And Nurit, we're glad you're with us. Go ahead, Alan.
Actually, I have to tell you, I can only think of
Hi,
one.
sorry.
I can only think of one instance in almost 27 years where someone said, "What? Pay for advice?" And it was interesting. That person that day told me no, and they ended up a year later joining one of my groups, and they were in the group for 10 years, and they thought it was the best thing that ever happened to them. I wouldn't tell anyone to stop getting advice from the people you're already getting advice from. This is about taking it to a different level. The people who give you advice are I'm sure almost always well-meaning, or you may be paying for it. Okay. The thing I like about Vistage is that you're paying to belong to Vistage, but you're not paying for the advice. Vistage is the only room your members are going to be in every month where everybody's a CEO and has no other agenda than to be helpful. And that is just a huge, huge thing from the standpoint of everyone being peers and having no other agendas. The other people in your life, you can get good advice from. I'm not saying stop that. It isn't either or, it's both and. And the higher up you get, the more important these decisions become. And I think oftentimes people that you're getting advice from, be it a family member or maybe it's an attorney or an accountant, they can give you advice maybe technically or in their sphere of influence. They may not be able to help you cope with the risk or help you identify the opportunities because that's not what they do. Plus, those are transactional relationships, and everyone needs to have them. I'm not saying anything bad about attorneys or accountants, but this takes it to the kind of decision-making level that I think every CEO needs to have, just in terms of sheer conscientiousness, in terms of doing their job.
Absolutely. And everybody, please be ready in a moment to ask Alan a question. As tough as it may be, Alan and I both know in Vistage we're very straightforward. Just ask any question you have. And, in Israel, again, culture being what it is, people want to be closed about some of what they're doing with business. So if you'll talk a moment about the confidentiality, what happens within the groups that people are able to share at a much higher level than they could at a coffee shop.
I'm sorry, was that a question? I didn't.
Yeah. Talk about, if you will, Alan, about how people are able to share confidentially their problems that they wouldn't necessarily be able to share anywhere else.
I remember the first meeting that I chaired. I was really concerned about whether or not these people were going to open up and share. And I was shocked at how quickly it happened. And one of the reasons it happened so quickly was, first of all, they'd all signed a pledge of confidentiality as part of their membership application. But the thing that really drove it home was as soon as they got in the room, they realized what I said a few minutes ago. This is the only room they'd been in where everyone was a CEO who had no other agenda than to be helpful. There are no competitors. There are no significant customer supplier relationships. And they're all smart people. They got that very quickly. I mean, if you've ever been to like a military reunion or an industry group, I mean, things happen very quickly then because you're all playing the same game. So I would say that over time, the level of people being willing to share will increase, and it has to. Trust is earned. Okay, and not everyone's going to dump everything at the first meeting. Okay, and you wouldn't expect them to. But I will tell you, it doesn't take very long for people to be, they share financial statements. They say, here's my strategy, here's my plan, tear it apart, help me succeed. I have found the trust issue and the confidentiality issue not to be an issue.
Yeah. And Alan, what do you say to people that say, well, there's YPO, there's EO, it costs much less than it does to Vistage. We don't really look at ourselves at the same category as those groups. Am I right? This is a whole different level of coaching.
Well, I think it's similar to the fact that they're all peer advisory groups, but they're different in the way that a Taurus is different than a Lexus is different than a Rolls Royce. Okay. I would never say anything negative about any of those. They all have their place.
Right.
I've actually sent people to those entities if I didn't think that Vistage was the right answer for them, or if I didn't think they qualified for us. So what I would tell you is that when it comes to Vistage, I think the key differentiator is that Vistage is a process and not just an event. If you look at YPO, they don't have full-time facilitators. They don't do one-to-ones. They have great meetings. They have great people. And they have a social element that we don't have. I mean, I remember when my bosses at the private equity firm were in YPO, and this is in the 1980s, they each were paying about $2,000 a year in YPO dues, but they each had $100,000 budgeted for YPO social activities. Okay. And it's not that there isn't a social aspect to Vistage, but that's not what we do. And if someone's looking for that, then that's where they should go. But what we're offering is someone who's paid to run the group, facilitate the conversations, recruit the members. We have speakers that come to the individual groups. In YPO, they come to the actual chapters, which is fine. And you have 100 people in the room. The speakers are actually coming to the individual groups. And then the thing that really makes us a process and not just an event is the one-to-ones, which really ties that whole thing together and provides accountability and continuity and really helps the member leverage and take advantage of all the resources that are there. So there's clear differentiators there, but I would tell someone, if you can't join Vistage, if it's about money or something, try one of the other ones, because after they've had a taste, you will be able to sign them later. When they're not getting the things that they can get from Vistage, you will be able to go back to them. I've recruited a couple people from EO and from YPO, and they were much easier to sign after they've been in YPO for a while or EO, but they just weren't ready for Vistage yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a moment, I'll call on each one of the people in the group here to ask questions of Alan. Maybe we'll begin with Yagev in a moment, just to ask them anything you wish. But back to what you said a moment ago, Alan, about recruiting. How did you recruit your first members for your first group? Because you have 5 groups now. You're one of the top chairs in the US. How did you do it then? How do you do it now? Did you recruit people for your first group?
Well, when you're starting a group, I mean, basically you're kind of starting cold, okay? And there's a lot of time and energy that goes into recruiting that group. And the thing I want to mention, I'm glad you used the word recruiting, because there's 2 aspects to recruiting. There is, in our business, there's selling, and then there's selection. I mean, if you think of the military goes out and promotes themselves, they sell, but they don't take everybody, they select. And the more elite the branch, the more they do that. We're the same. We don't have customers, we have members. And the essential difference there is that if you just have a customer, you can do business with anybody as long as the check clears. If you have a member, then you have an obligation to bring value to that member, but you're looking for that member to bring something to the group. This is just more like an orchestra than anything else. You may be the conductor and everyone's going to play a role. So when I'm recruiting someone, I'm looking for a healthcare CEO right now for one of my groups, because the one I had just retired. Okay. I'm looking for a heavy manufacturer in the other group. Okay. Think of it as a team. Everyone's playing the same sport. Which position are people going to play? Because you're truly building a team. So, but
Absolutely.
Early on when you start, it's about using your network. It's about going to people such as accountants, attorneys, people who have CEO clients who can refer to you. And there is a lot of work. I'm not going to kid you about it, but it is well worth it, because I'll just tell you now, this has been one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. I would not be the person I am, and I'm by no means finished goods, except for the time I've spent in Vistage. There's a lot of psychic income and personal development you'll get at the same time you're helping your members get it. So it's basically, you're starting a business, and anytime you start a business, it's put your shoulder to the boulder and get it rolling. And it just takes time and effort.
Yeah. And Alan, what Anita and I have committed to everybody who becomes a chair and goes through our Chair Academy, which is coming up in December, is to help them in every way we can to build their first groups and get them going. So Yagev and Jackie, Yagev, have any questions for Alan about any part of Vistage, about how we're doing this and how he's done it?
Yeah, thank you, Boaz. Alan, I wanted to ask, you mentioned several ways of recruiting. You mentioned your personal network and people that, like accountants and lawyers and so on that would know CEOs. From your experience, what has been most effective in terms of recruiting process, which one of these elements that you mentioned would most probably bring you the best results? And also, do you use existing members in the Vistage groups to help you with the recruiting? Is that something that is acceptable and it's kind of a best practice, or not really?
Absolutely. So let me talk about how you start evolves over time. So I would be going to everyone that I knew that I felt had relationships with CEOs and explaining what Vistage is and giving them the information in the background to make a referral to you. I'll give you an example. With an accounting firm, for example, I would try to talk to the managing partner and say, if that were you, Yegev, I would say, Yegev, you and I are not competitors. We do not do the same thing. I don't do taxes, I don't do books. But what I think you can offer your member or your client is the opportunity to be part of a peer advisory group that really complements what you're doing. And by the way, Yegev, I really think this is an opportunity for you to grow your own practice, because when someone else in that Vistage group needs what you do, you'll have someone sitting there who's ready to make a referral of you because you already have a great relationship with them. So you have to look at it from the point of view of the person making the referral, because anytime you make a referral to someone, there's an element of risk there.
Sure.
Okay? So you have to ask yourself, what does the attorney or the client get out of it? Because in a way, you are competing a little bit. You're competing for the time and attention and money of that client. So you have to make the opportunity outweigh the risk. And the way that I do that is to say, you ought to have your best clients at every Vistage group in Israel, so that when someone in that group needs what you do, you're going to have someone there to carry the water for you. So I would start off with that. You have to start off with referrals, and there's going to be some smiling and dialing. I mean, you're going to have to get on the phone and call people. If you belong to organizations that cater to CEOs, there's an organization here. I believe we have a chapter in Israel. It's called Association for Corporate Growth, acg.org. And that is a great organization to join in terms of networking. And if you need any help with that, send me an email. Boaz will give you my contact information at the end, and I'd be happy to connect you with. I was on the St. Louis board for many years, and it's been a great place to refer. So starting off, there's calling, there's referrals, there's referrals of people you know. And after you get a group going, and this is really important, if you don't remember anything else I tell you today, remember this. One of the first things you do when you start to get that group built is to ask for referrals. And so if you had just joined my group, Yegev, I would say to you, Yegev, I have a list of people that I'm going after to fill the rest of our group in these industries. First, I want to check with you to see if any of them are conflicts with you. And then is there anyone you'd like me to contact instead of the people here for this particular industry? So even before the ink's dry on the application, I've started to build a referral process within the group. And if you do that early, that will really help you. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and I would say for the past 20 years, I don't think that I've had to call or ask for a referral from outside. Everything's come from my members.
All right, thank you.
And what I've seen, Alan, is some chairs at the end of the all-day meeting with their members, they go around the room and ask everyone for a referral. And it's just expected because that's part of what's building the group. And they tell them, this is your group.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways to, I wouldn't do that at every meeting.
Yeah.
But actually, Boaz, there's a white paper that I wrote on that a couple years ago, and I'll send it to you, and you can send
Please.
it to my future colleagues here.
Yes.
But it's very important to build that culture, and after a while, you'll also get better members because you're getting referrals from people that have already, experienced the process.
Yeah, yeah. So once you have 2 or 3 members, they will help you to build the group because you're going to their referrals and so forth. Jackie and then Arnon. And Jackie, any question for Alan?
Yes. Hi, Alan.
Hey, Jackie.
I'd like to ask you about the very beginning. When you started your first group with Vistage, what was the major challenge or takeaway that you learned from your first group, and what would you advise us? And so what is the key skill that you need to get that group going and the chemistry right?
I think the thing you have to remember at the beginning, while Vistage has a much, much better brand than it used to when I started, there was almost no emphasis on that at all. So there's a brand there that you can rely on. The story's better. When I started, I think we had 2,500 members. Now we have 23,000. We're in 19 countries around the world. So there's a good company story to tell. And I think that helps get you in the door. But people are going to join you. They're not really joining Vistage. They're joining you. And so the question is, how are you compelling? How are you different than other people in their lives? And the thing I would tell you to do is be sure that you're at eye level with everyone you talk to, whether you've been a CEO or not. They have to understand that time with you is going to be different and that you're going to challenge them in a way that no one else is. You don't want anything else from them or anything else from them except for them to succeed. You're not trying to sell anything else. They pay their dues and that's it. That's all you're getting from them. So, but it's very important that you differentiate yourself in terms of everyone else in their life who is like here and wants something from them. They're selling, they want a job, they want a promotion, they want something else. So at the very beginning, you have to be sure that you're at I call it being at eye level. And I mean, that is first and foremost, because if you're not there, and if you're not challenging them in a positive and productive way, they're going to say, let me think about it, and you'll never hear from them again.
And Arnaud, any question?
Does that answer your question, Jackie?
Yes, it does. Very much so. Thank you.
All right. Arnaud, any question for Alan?
Yeah, just a quick question. Thank you, Alan, first of all, for joining us. This has been really fantastic in terms of the value and understanding the process that you went through, albeit it was some 20 years ago, but still. And I think my question, maybe as a follow-up to Jackie's question, and specifically for today, for these unique times that we all live in, starting this process without the ability, for the most part, to do this face-to-face through phone calls or Zoom or Teams or whatever the media is. From your experience doing this and being successful at it for so many years, what would you say should be the focus for when we start, again, our very first process of recruiting a group, and it has to be done in a very non-personal way? What would be your key focus things to make sure that we do right?
First, I would prepare before you have a conversation with anyone. Learn what you can about them. Don't turn into a consultant on their company overnight, but learn what you can so you can have a good discussion. Make sure that you can convey the Vistage value proposition to them. And actually, I'll just build on something else from Jackie's question. When you're talking to someone, they need to understand that this is not only important, but it's urgent. And it's urgent because if they don't see this opportunity as perishable, it's easy for them to say, call me in 3 months, call me in 6 months, call me when we have a vaccine, call me whatever. They have to understand that you only have one seat in your group for that industry. And that if they're not joining today, a competitor or a supplier or a customer could come in and block them in the future. Mm-hmm. So they have to understand that it's both scarce and perishable. And I'm not saying to do that in a manipulative way, but they just have to understand that you're going to move on, and that if they want to talk later, fine, I'll be happy to talk to you later, but I may or may not be able to accommodate you at that point. I just want to be real clear with you now, so there's no misunderstanding later.
Yeah, makes sense.
Wow, I think that's a very powerful point right there. Don't you all agree? Wow, that was amazing. Nurit, any question for Alan, our master chair from St. Louis?
Hi, Nurit.
Yes, hi, Alan. Sorry for being late.
No, but you're here. That's all that counts.
Yes, and I missed the first part, his introduction and his value from his experience.
As a chair.
Sorry?
Yeah. He has 26 years as a chair, 5 groups in St. Louis.
Yeah, this is something that I read in the introduction that you have sent. I wanted to ask you, Helen, do you see any common challenges in generally coming from the CEOs that you are meeting in the different groups? Do you see any, return and challenges that you see that are any common interest when you're running those groups? Even if there are different industries, as I understand, you were talking about the content and others.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a couple of them. One is most Vistage companies are, small to medium size. In the U.S., I think about 90% of the memberships between 5 million and 100 million. I don't know what the demographics will shake out to be in Israel, but you have CEOs of companies that size typically are really doing more than just the CEO job. If they've come out of sales, they're still kind of running the sales function a lot of times. Or if they're in finance, they're still kind of riding herd on their controller if they have one. So I think a challenge that we have is to really help everybody become the CEO that they have on their business card, where they're getting work done through other people so they can really work on the business instead of just in it. So I see a lot of that. I think something else that I've seen that is kind of interesting is that there's no good definition a lot of times for CEOs. I have one, and I'll share it with you in a minute. But people kind of think they know what the job is, and they get into it, and they're kind of learning it as they go. And I think one of the things that we can do is to help bring a lot of definition to the role. When I'm interviewing someone, I always say, it's important that you know what my definition of a CEO is. And my definition of a CEO is that it's the person in the organization who is ultimately accountable for identifying, selecting, pursuing, and realizing opportunity. And by ultimately accountable, I mean, you don't have to do all those things, but you do have to make sure they get done. The best CEOs that I know don't spend a lot of time doing things, but they spend a lot of time leading people. So in terms of getting to a role, members come in varying degrees close to that role. And one of our jobs is to get them there. And then the other thing is just to kind of create an environment. And I love this from Vistage training. You're trying to create an environment that is safe, but not always comfortable. Safe in that people can come in and they can disclose and they can bring any issue, but maybe uncomfortable in terms of the feedback that they get. They're going to hear stuff they don't want to hear, or they're going to be held accountable for things that all of a sudden maybe are harder than they thought. So it's up to you as a chair to kind of create that environment, both in terms of what you do and helping the other members understand that is their role, is to also make that room safe, if not always comfortable.
How they get with this kind of how they manage with this kind of feedback, because in Israel, CEO of a company, especially a small business company, it will be difficult for them to hear those kind of, strong words that you're talking about, and really to put them in a position to understand that they do not need only to run the people, but also run the business, and not only running, trying to shut down the fire that is behind them.
So if I'm understanding your question, are you saying that your concern is they won't want to hear it and they'll leave the group?
I don't know. It's depend. I think it's depend from both sides. First of all, if the group will be good for them and they will understand that they get value from the other colleagues in the group, they won't leave, but they won't like the feedback. They won't like to hear it. I don't know if they will leave, or I hopefully not, but for sure they won't like, they will not like to hear the strong words and the truth in their face, as we say.
Yeah. Well, I think to some degree you're gonna deal with this when you're interviewing the member for membership in the first place, and making it very clear, both by what you tell them and how you act with them. Hey, this is going to be something where sometimes it's going to be tough to hear. I need you to assure me that you're going to be that you want that and you're going to be able to handle it. So this is a good to great program. Okay, this is for people that really want to grow a business to take to the next level. This is not for lifestyle entrepreneurs. This is not for someone who just wants to make a living. There's nothing wrong with that. My dad was that way. God bless him. He created a wonderful life for his family. That's not what we do. We are a good to great type of organization. And so in the interview, people really need to get what it's going to be like. The other piece of it is during the meeting as a facilitator, your job, if someone's giving feedback that has the wrong edge on it, is for you to maybe go over to James and say, James, why don't you give him that feedback the way you'd like to get it? Okay, so there's facilitation that goes on there, and that's your job. I mean, there's a Vistage speaker, I think Boaz knew him, Pat Murray. He passed away here earlier this year. Really incredible on group dynamics. And he told me once, he said, you can say almost anything to anybody. It's not what you say, it's the load that comes with it.
Yeah.
And your job is to intervene and say, whoa, Jeff, to him, or someone else say, feedback what you're hearing from your fellow members here. So again, safe but not always comfortable, and that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Part of chair training, if I'm not mistaken, Alan, is how to facilitate, how to work, how to get everybody to bond and give criticism and receive it in a good manner. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. James, do you have a question for Alan?
Well, so it's good to meet you, Alan, and it's so great to hear your insight. I'm a Sander trainer, and I run Sander in Israel. And I had a call with Tom Cuthbert today. I don't know if you know him from San Antonio.
Yeah.
He bought the Sander franchise from Angel in San Antonio, and he's been working with you guys for many years. And I had a call with Tom Neeson. I think he's from Dallas. He's also a Sander trainer. So I'm well aware of the network, and from my point of view, I started Sander here a few years ago. Very similar situation than you're in today. And you know what? I called every CEO in Israel and built my entire business. So it can be done. And for anyone who's on this call,
sure,
and it wants to be a chair, it's easy. All you just have to have a little bit of tenacity and belief. And Alan, I really connect to what you're saying. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
If you're nurturing, you can say anything you want.
Yeah.
My question to you is, what's the compelling event that you create in order to get the CEO to realize, hold on a second, there's something here that I need to be looking at?
There's a process we have called selection interview. And it evolved over a long time, and it's really been pretty well developed. And I want to underscore interview. The person must understand they're being interviewed. They must understand that you may say no to them. Okay.
Yep.
And in the context of that interview, the core of it is to get that person to say, I like to tee it up this way, James. I'll say, James, if I didn't see you for 5 or 10 years and ran into you on the street and said, James, good to see you again, where would you want to tell me you'd taken your business? So I'm asking them, what's the vision they have for themselves? Okay. And first of all, they have to have that. If they don't have that, they may not make a good Vistage member. And the only way I'm going to take them at that point is I may say, James, you sound like a lifestyle entrepreneur to me. It doesn't sound like you have a vision for your business. Unless you intend to get one, and I'm happy to help you do that, but unless you're going to commit to me that you're going to create one for yourself, I'm not sure we have anything else to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a technique called strip lining. So it's Sander. So it's parallel. Yeah. Push them away to make them come over.
If they've got the vision, then it's like, Jim, what's in your way? What's keeping you from getting there? Okay, and talk about that. And then get that and say, Jim, if you don't get that out of the way, what are you going to tell me when I run into you on the street in 5 to 10 years? What's going to be the impact on you and your financial situation, your family? I always end up with the family, because at the end of the day, everything's personal. There's such a thing as personal. At the end of the day, everything's personal. Okay. So, and then when I've got them to the point where what I'm trying to do is to get them to really connect with, oh crap, I'm really in deeper stuff than I thought I was here. Then it's like, okay, Jim, I've explained to you how Vistage Group works. Tell me how you would use the group to address those issues. Because I need to know you're going to use the group on this. Otherwise, we really don't have anything to talk about. Okay. And then basically it's about them explaining to themselves why they need to join Vistage.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very shortened version of the process, but it works pretty well.
Excellent. And so my question is, Boaz, love the talk track. Alan, you got me there. Is this the type of stuff that we'd be trained on, or would be able to learn when, I mean, these specific talk tracks? I mean, there's a lot of Sander in this stuff, and I connect to the strip lining and all this, just ways we define it. but is this type of stuff that would be working on if we and when we would engage in December, Boaz?
Yeah, I believe so, Alan. Isn't all this part of Chair Academy, the 5 days where you go through all of this?
Yes.
Very good.
But something I do want to say, when you join Vistage, it's not like a continuation of your old career normally. We're taking people who've been senior executives, are doing this or doing that, and now it's qualitatively different in a lot of ways. Not that your experience doesn't count, it does, but part of what you need to do as a new chair is you're going to be introduced to a lot of things that are skills that you're going to need to work on after training. So there's like on the selection interview practice, there should be a fair amount of practice you do with that before you inflict it on a prospect. So there's a commitment there to training. We do really good training. I was on the faculty for a long time, and they're probably spending as much money on training as they do anything else. And a lot of that is run by chairs, and they're all first rate. So you won't get better training anywhere else. I'm absolutely convinced of that.
Wow.
A follow-up question on one thing you mentioned a while ago, Alan, about accountability. I think isn't that one of the differentiating points? Alan, isn't that the differentiating point? One of the points about Vistage, that people are actually accountable for the goals and the actions they're going to take between now and next month's meeting.
Yeah, there's two aspects to that, Boaz, on the accountability. First of all, asking a subordinate to hold you accountable is typically not very productive, even if you mean it. They may not have the maturity or the courage to do that. Real accountability comes from peers who have no other agenda than to be helpful. That's the first piece of it. That's where Vistage becomes essential. I mean, unless you're going to go create your own group or you already have CEOs around you who will do that, Vistage is where you're going to get this. So that's the first piece of it. The other piece of accountability is you can't force accountability on people. So if Boaz is my chair and I'm presenting an issue to the group, and at the end, he's going to say, okay, Alan, you've got a lot of great feedback. What are you going to do? And what do you want us to hold you accountable for? So I'm the one who has to put that out there. It's a peer group. You cannot hold me accountable for something that I haven't agreed to be held accountable for. It doesn't really work that way. And then if I'm never asking to be held accountable, then Boaz as chair at some point needs to say to me, Alan, are you sure this group is right for you? Because you're not asking for accountability. I don't see a lot of progress happening. Maybe we need to find something else for you. And by the way, from time to time, you will fire a member. I have fired 2, and it was very unpleasant. And the only thing I would go back and tell my younger self was I should have done it a lot earlier than I did. Because I mean, they were good people. I'd be happy to have them live next door to me, but Vistage was not what they needed. They needed something I didn't have, and I helped them get it. And now they're much better off.
You got Silla's remorse, didn't you?
Yeah. How many total members do you have in all your groups, Alan, at the moment?
109.
Wow. Amazing.
And that includes the Vistage chair group, which without that, it's I think 95.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think your thoughts are amazing and so very helpful. Any other questions for Alan today? Anybody have any other questions? Alan, we appreciate you allowing me to share your email address. So if anybody has a question later on, they can email you. One thing you all will know, and maybe Alan can comment on this, in the Vistage world, wherever you are, we're all to be of service to everybody. Am I right, Alan? Whatever you all need anywhere, we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say, being part of the chair community is just a huge benefit in and of itself. I mean, if you put a request for help out to the chair community, stand back, because you're just going to get overwhelmed with responses. It is a great thing to be a part of. I've made so many friends, and again, just the personal development you'll get is extraordinarily worthwhile. So I wish each and every one of you success. If I can help any of you, Boaz will send you my contact information, and you have a great leader there with Boaz, and He's a legend in our community, and if he's half as successful with this venture as he has been in our community, you won't have to wait long to be chairing.
Alan, you're very kind. I appreciate that immensely. And one day when we're all able to get together, there will be a worldwide conference where you all will get to meet Alan in person. And that will be an honor. And so, Alan, we thank you so much for your time and for your support. It is very, very much appreciated. Would you all agree? This has just been wonderful.
Absolutely.
So,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
We know your time is valuable, Alan, so we'll let you go about your day. And again, my great appreciation. Anita and I are very, very grateful for your time.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Alan.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. What an amazing gentleman. I've known him for so many years, as he said, almost 20 years when we first met. And it is that kind of help that is available. There is a portion of the Vistage website called ChairNet, where you're able to talk to chairs all over the world. You have a question, something didn't work right, put it on ChairNet. You'll suddenly, as Alan said, are going to get 20 or 30 responses from chairs all over the world. And so some dates to look forward to. We've now firmed up Chair Academy. It is going to be the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of December, as well as the 7th and 8th. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. So it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're taking Friday, Shabbat off, and then back Monday, Tuesday. And so Anita's going to work on the location where you all can maybe come together there. She is coming to America in November. And if the quarantine is lifted, then she will come and be with you all, and I will also come. And but if it's not, then Anita and I will be part of your training in Chair Academy virtually. So we are going to go through training with you all the way. So our next times together, the 10th of November, we're going to go back to 5 o'clock Israel time. And our special guest for that is going to be Fred Carpenter, another top chair in the USA, lives in Phoenix and Los Angeles. He has 4 groups. So I'm giving you the best of what I've got here. In fact, the day after November 10th, I will be starting 4 Vistage meetings for Fred's groups that week. So November 10th. And then Janet Boudreau is going to be our guest on the 24th of November. Again, the same time, she's a top chair out of North Carolina. Just an amazing person. And then Gadi Pollock, who had to change to another date, we're adding November 30th. He will be with us. So what we're wanting to do, Anita and I, is to bring you the best people in the world who are doing this. You can ask them questions as you did. You'll have their contact information. You can get a hold of them and go from there. And one of the bit of information.
Can I ask? I'd like to ask a question.
James, yes.
Quick question. I don't want to be a pain in the ass here, but
no.
Is there any chance that we could speak to someone who started from not where we are, in like not from America, Italy, France, Germany, UK? I don't know. Would you mind?
No. I'll check with Andy Perkins, the international vice president.
I don't want to be difficult here, but I'd really, really like to experience that cultural thing, because everyone's from the US and I get it. By the way, I don't have any belief system problems here. I know that if it works anywhere, it'll probably work here. But I would really, really appreciate understanding a little bit about what their journey looked like.
Love it.
Fair?
Absolutely. Simply done. I'll get a hold of Andy today and see what I can do to line up another date with a chair from the UK. Absolutely. My honor. And we're finalizing the chair agreement. So we're extending that to maybe around the 13th or so of November. We'll send you the draft of that, and we'll ask by that point to make commitments to go with us. And there's not much, financial commitment, simply the $750 to help with training, which only goes to a portion of that. Vistage is paying a whole lot, as Alan told you. So any other questions or comments at the moment? Anybody? Any questions or comments? All right, you all will meet next time. Anna Weber, she's also a chair candidate out of Southern California. I've known Anna for about 15 years. She's been a corporate executive, originally from Transylvania, lived in Israel for many years, now in the US. And unfortunately, where she is in Southern California, they have some evacuations today because of fires. So she will join us next time. So any questions? We appreciate you all being here today. We'll continue to bring the best people in the world and to do everything we can to help you get going. Our big marketing campaign is launching tomorrow to find potential
I have
members.
something to say. All your emails are going to my spam.
Okay. So
yeah, you better check that out. I don't know. You tell me. So it's all going into my spam. My spam filters are picking up all your emails.
I wonder, is your spam filter very high, James? Because other people are getting my emails.
Not really. No, all the emails that you sent out, you know, those blasts you guys do.
From Constant Contact?
You do the Vistage stuff. It's from you, and it's going out to potential candidates.
Is there another email address for you, James? Or
well, yeah, I mean, it's this is like my I don't have any. I usually don't have that level caught. I'm just saying you might want to check it out.
I will. I'll check with Constant Contact. No problem.
Sorry, man. I don't want to. Again, I don't want to be a pain.
No. I appreciate all the help. Any other
your
questions
success
or
is
comments?
my success. I'm happy to support.
I appreciate it. Oh, listen, we need all the help we can get, James. So I thank you. I'll check on that with Constant Contact. Any other thoughts from anybody for today? All right. We appreciate your time. We will see you the next time on the 10th of November. And whatever we can do in the meantime, Anita and I are here. We're committed to your success. As you can see, we're bringing the best resources in the world. And we're launching the big marketing campaign tomorrow. And James will tell you more about that when we see you in a couple of days.
Thank you.
And so, everybody, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Anita.
All right. We'll talk to you all soon.
Bye. Thanks very much.
Bye.